Welcome to the 2021 Economic Depression and Preparation Channel. I'm your host, Tony. Thank you for joining me on this Thursday, April 8th, 2021 edition. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button to tell all your friends and neighbors that this is the place for the 100% truth on what's happening with the U.S. economy and sometimes abroad as well. Well, today is Thursday, and as you know, we got the weekly jobless claims this morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, straight from the Bureau of Labor Department, the statistics. Well, jobless claims this week totaled 744,000 for the week ending April 3rd. The Labor Department reported this morning. That was above the Dow Jones estimate of 694,000 and the previous week's 728,000. So the initial jobless claims are rising once again. And this is in spite of all of the hope and cheerful optimism that we have of the economy reopening, the vaccines, the stimulus money. This is in spite of all of that. Jobless claims continue to rise. Besides that dip we had last month, now we're back on the rise again. Some good news, continuing jobless claims nudge lower as did the total of those receiving benefits. But 744,000, that's bigger than some cities, that's bigger than some counties in America. Jobless claims per week. The news comes a week after the sign of more aggressive healing in the labor market as non-farm payrolls increased by 916,000, while the unemployment rate fell to 6%. Well, that's going to be going up now that we have another 744,000 initial jobless claims. So, two things to look for, my friends, that are going to be going up. Interest rates are going to be going up once all of this euphoria passes and all of the infrastructure bills and all of that. Taxes are going to be going up. And the third thing that's going to be going up, the trifecta. That's right, the jobless claims. Unemployment will be going up. Continuing unemployment will be going up. Now, California and New York accounted for most of the rise in jobs, respectively, with 38,963 and 15,714, according to the unadjusted data. So, economists have been speculating that filing these backlogs could be one factor driving the stubbornly high claims number because of the spike in cases, the resurgence of cases in the health crisis. It kept some states elevated, filings elevated. Markets reacted little to the data, and stock futures and government bonds yields remain mixed here on the markets. But there is some concern out there that the tax agreement that the U.S. is starting to gain steam for, the corporate tax agreement, is going to focus on less than 100 companies, okay, in America. So this, once again, the approach will be based on size and profits rather than a type of business. So we already know that the big six companies, those FANG companies that make up over 50% of the value of the S&P 500 and NASDAQ 100, Facebook, Google, Apple, Netflix, you name it, Alphabet, Amazon, those companies the tax structure, the tax bill that President Biden is talking about is gonna be tailored to appease and to please those companies. Okay, they offered new proposals on taxing multinational companies in a bid to secure international agreement aimed at reducing tax avoidance, particularly by the big pharmaceutical and technology companies. As you know, the U.S. economy is a consumer economy, and most of the pharmaceuticals that we consume come from India, Singapore, Thailand, and overseas, and Canada. Technology companies are the same. They outsource their brain technologies, such as, computer software engineers, programming database administrators. All those people come from, of course, other countries: Pakistan, India, Finland, Russia. And they give them visas to come over here and they work offshore and do work for that. So now they would get tax breaks from the president coming up soon here. The U.S. approach will spare hundreds of other corporations that would have been hit by the prior proposal. So now they said, look, we'll back up off the prior proposal. We're not going to tax you that high. One that would have affected large consumer-facing businesses more broadly. So companies like Facebook and Amazon paid little tax in some markets in which they operated, and now it looks like more of the status quo. They're going to continue to pay a lower corporate tax rate, and they're going to have the minimum corporate tax rate according to the G20 nations summit that's going on as well. So this is just going to be absolute tug of war in these meetings between the corporations and the government. There's become a marriage between the corporations and the government, basically, of having outsourced the work and lower tax rate. That seems to go hand in hand with a deteriorating and declining U.S. economy. And folks, everybody's seen the writing on the wall for quite some time, but we did not know that it was going to happen this soon. Some have predicted that we had another good 10 years to 2030 before that the U.S. economy and the dollar began to collapse. But now we can see it. We can see that this economy is on the downslope. China is on the upslope. Russia is on the upslope. India, the emerging economies are on the upslope, on the upturn. And the reason why is because they dealt with their recessions and depressions, and they've let their people go through those hard times. The United States has not done that. And the Federal Reserve one of the Federal Reserve governors, Lael Brainerd, says that the brighter outlook for the U.S. economy is good, but she said that growth is still well beyond the central bank's goals. The economy is improving, but it's still far from where it needs to be. Well, no doubt. It doesn't take a PhD to figure that out. We have not remained at full employment. Monetary policy looks to be lacking. It's just print, and hope that everything sticks. Remember, the Federal Reserve Bank is still buying at least 120 bonds each month. How long can the FOMC, the Federal Open Market Committee members, handle that with inflation that's bound to be rising? Once inflation rises above 3-4% later on this year, that means that the Federal Reserve is going to have to stop this cheap money. They're going to stop buying bonds, and they're going to raise rates sometime between now and next summer. They're going to have to raise these interest rates. Otherwise, the complete economy will collapse even further, as unemployment will be rising, inflation will be rising, and that's just the perfect storm for a disaster, a complete meltdown here. And so what are we going to do? What are we going to produce now? What are your suggestions that how can Americans produce things that will help them in the future? Well, one of the things that we can produce is not just masks, but we need to produce more things, sustainability, more survival items, because since we're not going to be, the trade deficit with China has grown over 50% this past year since the pandemic began. So that means that a lot of your cars, your TVs, your washing machines, your generators, anything, medical supplies, anything that comes from overseas, with 65 to 70% of our products phones, are not going to be coming in after this year. So that whatever you have now and whatever you cannot get from these stores like Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace Hardware, furniture stores, clothing stores, whatever, you might want to get it this year and the beginning of next year, because after that, that's it. When they're going to see a supply shortage on these goods, a food shortage is coming everywhere. In the bigger cities like New York, LA, Chicago, DC, Miami, they're going to be hit first because they have a higher population that needs to be fed. And with climate change coming to us, well, it's the perfect storm. And so my advice is to continue to learn the skills for self-sustainability. Even if you're in an urban environment, you can always participate in urban gardening. There's always room. You can make room for things, and there's always time. Time is on our side. Time goes every day, but time is on our side. Everybody has at least 2 to 4 hours of free time a day to make these preparations, and it doesn't always take money. You can watch YouTube videos, other YouTube videos on how to start a sustainable garden, how to harness the power of solar power to recharge your batteries. Just different things that we can do to continue, because that's going to be the name of the game. You don't want to wait till the last minute, because when at the time they announced that, hey, we're in a depression, all of the stores are going to be emptied within one week, a minimum, 1-2 weeks minimum, with the amount of population that's going to be struggling once they announce officially that we're not in a recession, we're in a depression, because we can't open up as quickly as we thought, even with the vaccines and everything going on. Because we just don't have the money. The government's going to become insolvent as they print their way through all this infrastructure, all these different projects. So by the end of the year, we probably could very well be close to $35 trillion or $40 trillion in debt. And that's just not going to be sustainable for the long term, ladies and gentlemen. So continue to prepare, continue to do the right thing, continue to be judicious with the money that you do have while the dollar still has value, and before things go up and get really crazy. in the summertime and later on in the fall. So continue to do things, and I look forward to talking to you very soon again on the next video. God bless. Take care.